Okay, how's it going? Here's episode 4 of my horror movie podcast. Hope everybody's doing well and has been watching horror movies and all that stuff that goes along with the season. We're getting close to Halloween. It's next Saturday. Um, I said that I was probably going to not do all the series that I wanted to. I wanted to do Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street, and Friday the 13th. But I didn't think I was going to do them all in time for Halloween. Totally not going to happen. It seems very unrealistic for that to be the case. I'll probably just get through the Nightmare on Elm Street films, but that's okay. That's a lot of fun, anyways. And like I said, I want to just continue this podcast because I'm having fun with it. It's a lot of fun to talk about these, and it seems like a lot of people are enjoying it. So, yeah, I'll just continue through into November, and I think I'll just continue it indefinitely because there's so much good stuff to talk about. Um, yeah, before I got into, and by the way, we're going to be talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master, and probably A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child. I think I'm going to be able to knock both of them out in this podcast today because they were both like kind of a mess. So I think I won't have enough to talk about to get to do separate episodes on each, but who knows? We'll see, and you'll know when you see the title of this podcast. Before we got into that, though, I wanted to talk about a couple things as I normally do. The biggest thing I wanted to talk about was that The Witches comes out tomorrow, on October 22nd. The Witches remake, directed by Robert Zemeckis, screenplay co-written with Zemeckis and Guillermo del Toro. I think a couple other people. Helen Silvestri is doing the music. Anne Hathaway as the Grand High Witch. Octavia Spencer as the grandmother. Chris Rock as the narrator of the film. That looks pretty bad. I did do a video on my YouTube channel, kind of explaining my thoughts about the trailer. Again, I have to reserve judgment until I see it, but it's looking like it's going to be pretty terrible. Like everything that I don't want them to do with that movie, they're probably going to do. I'll be curious to watch it. I'll definitely be probably watching it tomorrow and giving you my thoughts on that. I'll absolutely do a podcast episode on that remake. That's going to be an interesting one. Are you guys excited for that or interested? I wouldn't say I'm necessarily excited. I'm actually a little bit nervous to watch it. I always have this weird thing. Well, for one, it's going to be hard to watch without comparing to the original. I think that goes without saying. For most people that enjoy the 1990 film, it's such a cult hit. It's got so much charm and camp to it. So it's going to be hard to watch this one and not be insanely critical of it. But whatever. That's kind of how it goes sometimes. Yeah, I'm just curious which of you people are kind of looking forward, I guess, or interested in watching it and all that. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I wanted to say that. I just had to get my thoughts out there because I'm kind of impatiently waiting to watch that. Some preliminary reviews have come out on it, and it seems all over the place. Like it's ranges from 2 stars to 3 stars, but the 2-star reviews aren't particularly good, and all that kind of thing. Sorry, you might be able to hear my beautiful wind chimes in the background, some ambience or ambiance, however you want to pronounce it. But yeah, that I don't know. Nobody really talks about the Grand High Witch's design, which is the thing I'm kind of hinging the film on. But I suspect that even though like people are allowed to review it, I feel like there's probably some sort of an embargo on them talking about that aspect of the movie because nobody has talked about that. I haven't. I read a bunch of reviews and I have seen no one talk about that. So that either means that it's like a really they know that is the kind of like the most important thing people are looking forward to, or it's really not that great and they don't want people totally shitting on the movie and kind of ruining any sort of possible hype. But there's been negative reviews of the film, really, so I don't know. Anyways, I had to say that. Let's get into A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, or Part 4. We all call them parts. So I said in the last one that I didn't have a lot to say because I really enjoyed part three, but I wasn't blown away by it like some people are. Some people consider it even their most favorite film in the series. I didn't think so. I didn't like that campy aspect and the humorous qualities that were creeping into the movie. It was well made and it was fun, but I am such a new fan of that original film that it's hard for me to watch these that are going a different route. Also, sorry, there's like garbage trucks, and it feels like just as I started to do this podcast, like they started building a skyscraper or something outside of my house. So you're probably going to hear some background noise. I hope that goes away soon. That's always the case though. And I guess the wind decided to start going at like 45 miles per hour, so my wind chimes are going nuts. Anyways, though, this was not my tastes, man. It was not my tastes. It pushes even further into the comedy route, and I understand that. I understand that they're just going to get more and more comedic in nature. They're going to get more off the walls. Freddy is now the main character that we're rooting for. I understand that that is the case, and that's what they were going for, but I don't like it. I don't like that. I think I've made it pretty clear that I'm just an immense fan of the tone and style of the first movie, and it really is 4 movies in, 5 actually now, but 4, making it really hard for me to kind of enjoy these because I just don't like it. It's perhaps if I just saw this one first, no context, I've never seen them before, and someone just said, hey, let's watch Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more, I think. I would have thought it was kind of unique. I think that's probably a good way to describe this. It's got a lot of uniqueness in it. It's got a lot of very interesting things that happen. And I feel like I probably would have had some laughs and thought some of the special effects were cool and left it at that. But coming from the first one, I just can't enjoy it that much. But also, to be honest, it wasn't really a particularly good movie either, even taking away that aspect of it. It was just kind of all over the place. There were some really weird sort of plot things going on that I was scratching my head at. Yeah. So in this one, we continue over from the third one where we have Kristen. And Kristen has been recast. Patricia Arquette is no longer playing her. And she is played by an actress named Tuesday Knight. That is a pretty cool name, if I may say so. And Tuesday Knight doesn't really look like Patricia Arquette. She's a blonde. They gave her the same hairstyle, but she looks really nothing like her. And that was something I was telling my friend. Me and my friend have been watching all of these together. We're both humongous horror fans. He actually got the Blu-ray set of this, and I'm going to go on a little tangent right now, but well, probably a big one. But the Blu-ray sets for these classic horror movies are like, it's like getting the Holy Grail, I feel sometimes. I feel like Scream Factory or Shout Factory makes a lot of these. The Nightmare on Elm Street set has all of the films, including the remake. It does not have Freddy vs. Jason, and it also has an extra Blu-ray, which is a special features Blu-ray that has episodes of Freddy's Nightmare, the TV show. I don't know anything about that, but that's cool. This Blu-ray set is like $35. That is an insane deal. I mean, that is like really, really a good deal, and it's so cheap. It makes me wonder why it's so cheap. When my friend said, "Oh, the Blu-ray's only sets $35, I'm gonna grab it," I thought like, it's a shitty Blu-ray set? What is it? But it's not. It's a really feature-filled set. Each disc has like 2 films on it, I think, and there are special features for each film. Not all of the special features for each movie are robust. Some of them are just kind of like interviews here and there. But the first movie in particular had a lot of excellent special features. They all have commentary for the movie. The first one had a big chunk of Never Sleep Again, that awesome documentary. Unfortunately, each film doesn't have that segment from that documentary. because I think another company owns the rights, so they could probably only just get that first part. But it's a very feature-filled Oh my God! Here come my freaking wind chimes. I'm sorry, so loud. I can't do anything about it though. And yeah, it's just great. And the Blu-rays look really good. Excellent transfers, I think. Now I'm not a cinephile. I mean, I do enjoy a good-looking picture and things like that, but I'm not the biggest on all that kind of stuff. But I think it looked really good. It looked very clean. We did originally watch the first couple on a very small TV, and it looked astonishingly good. When we blew it up to like a 55-inch TV, you could see a little bit of film grain in there and stuff, but I mean, that's kind of to be expected with, an 80s movie shot on film. But it looked really good, very colorful. The dark scenes in particular, like coming back to the first movie, the nightmare scenes, they looked appropriately dark and not overly dark. I thought that it was a very good transfer, very colorful. 1080p, it really a treat to watch these movies in that resolution. And I thought the audio was pretty good. Now the audio, I have noticed, is kind of all over the place because dialogue scenes are awfully quiet, and then someone will scream and it will blow your eardrums out. But I think it was probably mixed for like 5.1 surround or something like that. I don't have a surround sound system, and I really couldn't. I don't think I could put one where I live. So that's one thing. But yeah, I just had to say that because some of these other Blu-ray sets are extremely expensive. Like there's the Halloween Complete Collection, which is I think the only way you can get the producer's cut of Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. And that one, I remember seeing that in a Best Buy some years ago when that came out, and I didn't have the cash on hand at the moment to buy it, so I kind of just said, oh, that's cool, I wish I had that. And I never thought about it again for some reason. I don't know why, even though that's my favorite series. And now it's sold out, and it goes for like $800 on eBay. And I'm not exaggerating, it really does go for like $800. That's ridiculous. And you can't find the producer's cut. People will sell the individual producer's cut on Amazon and eBay, but it's like $80. As much as I want to see that, remastered, I'm not paying $80 for a Blu-ray. I don't want to see it that much. And then there's the Friday the 13th one that just came out. Really just came out a couple weeks ago. And that is a feature filled as well and has all the movies. It has Freddy vs. Jason on it as well, and the remake. And I haven't we haven't started watching those yet, but I suspect that that's going to be a good time. There are a few issues with that one. I think there was, for someone like me, minor issues. Like I think there's a couple audio sync issues. There's a few scenes missing. There's some issues with the 3D, which Friday the 13th Part 3, which is supposed to be in 3D. I think they have redone the 3D so you can watch it on a modern 3D system. I don't know anyone that has a 3D TV anymore. That's kind of a passing fad. That was really, really popular a while back for a couple of years. I actually had a 3D TV, and I'm one of those people that liked it. I know a lot of people didn't like 3D movies because it was gimmicky and everything, and they were putting out everything in 3D. But I always really liked 3D films. I think it was a lot of films actually did a good job with making it subtle and not that hokey thing where everything's popping out at you constantly. And I really thought it added to the immersion factor of a lot of movies. But that's that. So sorry for this big tangent, but I thought I'd talk about that. Let's get back to the movie though. So like I said in this one, Kristen's back, and all of the Dream Warrior kids are back. Kincaid and Joey are back. Kincaid was probably my favorite. He had that line in the third one I didn't even talk about or anything when they came in to like sedate him. They were like, oh, sedate him and bring him out of here. And he goes, the fuck you will. That was probably my favorite line in the movie. So they're back here, and I guess they're okay because they're back with their friends. They're released from the sanitarium, and I guess that they've undergone enough training, enough counseling that they can assimilate back into the real world, which seems a little bit insane and unrealistic. They were in basically a mental institution, And then in the mental institution, all of their friends died. Many people died, but I guess they're all right to come back into the real world and assimilate. Cool. So the thing that they do in this movie is they basically just get right into it, killing off these Dream Warrior characters. I hate that. Now, I just don't like when movies do that. It always frustrates me when they kill off a character from the last movie right away. Some people like that. It always irks me for some reason. They do that in Friday the 13th Part 2. They kill off the main character like right away. Jason like comes into her house and stabs her in the neck or something like that with an ice pick, I think. I just don't like it. And it's almost like, you see what they were doing. They were trying to say, okay, we're going a different route now, so here are the new characters. But it's like, how many times can you do that? How many times can you really, like, we're starting over, here's your new set of characters to root for. It's like, okay, well, they're just going to get killed off. We know that. I don't know. People don't want to see these characters killed off. And so it's like if you did bring them back for another movie, nobody's going to really want to see them killed off if they're the main characters again. So then you'd have to introduce even more characters to be fodder for Freddy. So I don't really know. I don't have a good solution there, but I never like that. And they're killed off pretty much right away. That's the first act of the film, really, is Freddy coming back. And, Kristen is having dreams that Freddy is back because she's in the boiler room and everything. And she pulls them into her dream, which remember she can do, and they show her, oh no, it's okay, he's not back or anything like that. Yeah, but that's not the case. Freddy's back to a degree, I think, at this point. Now, okay, I kept getting confused in the movie. I don't know why, but I was. Kristen's boyfriend in this movie, his name is Rick, and he's like the martial arts kid. For some reason, I kept thinking that this was Alice's boyfriend. We'll get to her. But it wasn't. It was his sister. Rick's sister is Alice. I kept thinking it was her boyfriend because she does kind of hook up with this other guy in the movie who becomes her boyfriend. And I was like, and Rick dies. Spoiler alert. But I was like, wait a minute. She jumped ship on that guy pretty quick right after his death. No, it's her brother. I'm bad at remembering these details. I know I am, and I've said it in my last podcast. I don't know what the problem is with me with this kind of stuff. It's not like I don't pay attention when I watch these movies, because especially with these ones, I'm like really looking forward to seeing new ones, even though I'm not really gonna love them. But I always miss little things like this. I guess I'm just that kind of person where if I'm going to and I know I'm doing a podcast, so you would think I would want all these nitty-gritty details, but like I said, I want to really do it off the cuff. But when I'm doing big discussions or writing big reviews or things for movies, I always have to watch them several times to fully engross myself with that film to make sure I know it inside and out. That's not the case here, but so this is probably the most ridiculous fucking thing I've ever seen in a movie. I laughed out loud when I saw this. Well, first of all, I'll tell you, before we get to that, I'm all over the place, sorry. I'll tell you the new kids. We have Alice, who's played by Lisa Wilcox. Sheila, who is this nerdy kid, very stereotypical nerdy kid with asthma. She's always puffing on her inhaler. And then Debbie, played by Brooke Thies, who is like the tough rocker chick with this big-ass blown-out hair, who I thought looked a lot like Mo Collins from Mad TV when she plays that badass character chick. I thought it was Mo Collins, honestly. I had to look it up. It's not her, but that's immediately who I thought it was. Those are the new kids who are, telling her, no, you're it's all good, don't worry. So, anyways, Kincaid falls asleep. My favorite dude, Kincaid, and he wakes up in the same junkyard set, the same auto car set from the last movie, where they buried Freddy's bones to kill him because that's what they had to do. And Freddy gets reincarnated, and the way that Freddy gets reincarnated makes no fucking sense to me. It makes no fucking sense. Kincaid's dog gets pulled into the dream, Kincaid's dog goes over to the pile where he's buried and pisses fire onto the pile, and it, boom, reanimates Freddy. Now, the way Freddy's reanimated, I thought was pretty cool. It's this, like, reverse shot of, like, all of his flesh coming back on, his eyeballs, like, that are, like, jelly, like, come back into, into formation. Very, very campy and fake looking, but it's like stop motion thing. And as I said in my last episode, I love stop animation, so I just have a soft spot for it. Even when it looks bad, I really like the way he came back. I thought it was a cool effect, even though it looked super fake and cheesy. But I liked it. But the way that he came back was, like I said, the dog pissing fucking fire onto the burial plot. I was like, what the fuck? And then he comes back, and I thought, like, there's got to be something else here. Like, this cannot be the way he comes back. This makes no fucking sense. But no, that's how he comes back. Dog just pisses fire within the dream and reincarnates him. And that was where I was like, oh no, oh dear Lord, I am in for an ordeal with this film, because they're just throwing it all out the window. They needed any reason, any excuse to get Freddy to come back in this movie. It's like, that's what you guys came up with. Pardon me 1 second. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Yeah, it's like, okay, that was pretty poor, guys. Pretty ridiculous. I guess because this starts to go really in the comedy route, they were like, whatever, who cares? You want him back. Maybe that's what they were thinking. They were like, Freddy's so popular now, he's the main character. People want him back. They don't give a fuck how he comes back. They just want him back, so they went with this. I thought that was absolutely ridiculous, and it was at this point in the movie, like I said, I knew that this wasn't going to take itself seriously at all. This was going to be a total, like, fucking, like, I don't know, like, fever dream of a film for me, because there are no fucking rules anymore, okay? So he gets in a little skirmish with Kincaid, and he kills him. So Kincaid's gone. Then we get to Joey's death, which was almost cool, but it wasn't gory enough. That was my problem with this movie, is I felt it was it was violent, and it was a little bit visceral and gross at times, but it wasn't particularly gory or anything, and I don't, it's like that fine line that I find myself with in movies. I either like it one way or the other. I like it where it's so subtle, and they don't show you a ton, where it's like less is more kind of thing, like Halloween, the original. Not a ton of gore in that movie. It's very violent, but there's not a ton of blood and guts and everything. It's very effective. Another one which is way more in your face and visceral, but still not the most gory film, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They were very effective in how they did that in that one. On the other hand, I'm a horror fiend, so I love blood and guts. Some movies are crazy over the top, and I like that too. It's that middle ground where it's like, almost like they're playing it safe, and I feel like that's kind of what the movie was doing sometimes. This one, they're very, very clearly trying to get the most people to watch this movie that they can. They wanted to make it a horror movie, but they knew Freddy had to have a lot of these quips in here, and comedic and crazy sort of dreamscape sort of things. But I don't think they wanted to make it so violent or so gory that they would turn people off from it. I don't know. My thoughts aren't clear on that, but that was how I was feeling. Because Joey goes to bed, he's laying in his waterbed, very dated, and he's watching some TV, and he's listening to his music on his record player. He's got this big ass long cord, as he used to have, so you could listen in your bed. And he falls asleep, and Freddy comes out of the waterbed and pulls him into the waterbed, and he kills him. You don't see him kill him, I don't think, but you see the whole waterbed start to turn red with his blood. Now, it was kind of cool, the way that the waterbed was lit, so you could really see the change. I knew that immediately when I saw that. I'm like, oh, it's just going to turn red with blood. So that was kind of cool. You don't get to see him kill him or anything like that. I don't know. It wasn't bad, for sure. It wasn't like a terrible kill. It was just, I don't know. So that's that. So Joey's fucking dead now. So Kristen's freaking the fuck out because her two friends are missing, and it's the same deal we always go through where, they're like, no, 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 it's cool. Don't worry about it. She's like, no, 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 you need to listen to me. This dude is back. Again, for the 18th time. So she tells all the kids about Freddy and everything. And it's like, it was kind of this moment where, again, it's like exposition heavy, where she's explaining Freddy. And the scene where she is explaining Freddy to her friends, I was like, they had to do that in order for her friends to realize that, I guess, or they could have had them experience Freddy in a very shocking way so that they would get the fucking picture. But the way that she explained to her friends, it was like so exposition heavy, and it's like, we as the audience know full well what Freddy's about. So when it's like, when you get these really exposition laden sort of monologues that I often don't like in films, it's almost like you're like not valuing the audience almost. Like I said, yeah, we get it. We know why he's back. You don't need to tell us that. I guess she's got to tell those guys, but we're the ones watching the movie. It just kind of feels very redundant to me. And again, I'm not a filmmaker, so I don't know if there was, like I said, if there's a particularly better way to do it, but whatever. So now she's going to avenge her friends and get back at Freddy again. So, and remember, Kristen is one of the last kids. Now she's the last kid whose parents killed Freddy Krueger. That was the deal in the last movie, and now Kincaid and Joey are dead, so she's the last one. So her mother was one of the original people, we presume, that went and killed Freddy. So, well, she has this scene where she's talking to her mom at the dinner table and arguing with her and everything. And her mom drugs her. I think she was drinking tea or something like that, or maybe it was her food, and she puts sleeping pills in it. She starts freaking out like, you fucking idiot. And it's crazy, too, because it's like, her mom, I was like, were you the dumbest woman ever? Like, she does kind of freak out, so it's a little self-aware that her mom would do this. But it's like, are the parents really still not believing the kids that he's coming back and killing people? Because we're 4 movies in at this point. He's done a lot of killing. It's like, you would have to believe at this point that, this guy that we killed some years ago is killing people in the dreams. I feel like you can't be that in denial of everything that's happened. So why the fuck would you drug your daughter and put her to sleep? Put her right where Freddy can get her. So she gets pulled into a dream. Well, she gets into a dream. And it's this whole thing where she, she's running around in the boiler room, and she pulls Alice into the dream. Again, she has that power. When she pulls Alice into the dream, Freddy kills fucking Kristen. I wasn't sure if that was going to happen. Now, obviously, we know that the other 2 kids died, the Dream Warrior kids. But I was kind of like, I kind of don't hate Kristen as a protagonist. I think she's fine. So I thought it would have been an interesting thing if Alice and Kristen kind of band together, and the other kids are fodder to be killed off, but those 2 are like these 2 kind of like badass chicks that, band together to kill Freddy. But that's not the case. They're just straight up killed her. But Freddy threw her into a boiler and like burned her fucking alive. And then Alice wakes up, tells Rick that, this is really bad. They go to Kristen's house. Her fucking room's on fire. Her mom's freaking out. And then they see her burnt corpse. So she died. I was like, oh, okay. And this was where it started to get kind of like almost boring in a sense, because this is like, I don't know how long this was into the movie. Maybe a half an hour. I'm not sure. But it really felt like a good portion of the movie with Kristen. And, sometimes movies do that where they take you through the character and then they're surprisingly killed off. And I kind of like that sometimes. Like, well, the first movie does that with Tina, where she's killed not that late into the movie, like 20 minutes into the movie. But it's like a twist, like, ooh, you thought she was going to be the one. Other movies do this too later on. So I don't know if they were trying to do a throwback to that thing. a half-assed kind of throwback. But I felt like it was too late into the movie to do that because now we're switching gears. So we got all this shit that we have to kind of deal with for the first act of the movie, and now going into the second act, our new girl is Alice. And it just felt like, wow, this movie is trying to pack in a lot of stuff for the running time because it's only like 90 minutes long. I feel like they're trying to put too much plot into here. Maybe they didn't know how they could handle all this kind of stuff with the running time. Who knows? But to me it felt like, wow, this is a lot, man. This is a lot of kind of almost messy in a way. And like I said, it's starting to feel, felt like a long movie to me. I know it's probably only like 30 minutes in, or maybe even not even that. I don't know. But I'm like, Jesus, this movie's long. It feels like a long one. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this movie. I'm like, okay, I guess Alice is the end girl now. And I didn't like Alice at all up until this point. I thought she was honestly, the acting was a little bit wooden almost. She kind of had a blank sense on her face. I don't know. She wasn't particularly interesting. Now, I will say, Alice is in the second movie as well. I did kind of start to like her a little bit. I did, not really mind her that much. I don't think she was nearly as good as Kristen, and not even close to being as fleshed out or as interesting as Nancy was. But I didn't hate her. I did start to kind of enjoy her character to a degree. But that wasn't until the next movie. That movie was a huge mess, but I did start to enjoy her character. That was one positive I can say. I know a lot of people don't really like that the character of Alice, but I didn't mind her so much. Okay. Now we get into the second and third act, which is killing time, We're going to get really rinse and repeat here. We're going to see Freddy kill off her friends in crazy ways. And this is where it just gets boring. It's like we're kind of in the slasher, fully in the slasher thing now where, it's like, all right, well, let's put the plot on hold for a little bit and just really get into the killings, which, of course, I never dislike seeing kids get killed off in horror movies, but, that's just kind of how it is here. And there's some interesting ones, and there's some that are like, what the fuck am I watching? So, the first one, which I don't know, I didn't care for so much, was where Alice and Sheila, remember her nerdy friend, are in school. And actually, fun fact, the teacher in their class is played by Robert Shea, who is a producer. I don't know if he was the producer. Yeah, he was the producer of this movie. He did a lot of them. Kind of put himself in there, of course. I just thought that was interesting. But Alice falls asleep. She pulls Sheila into the dream, which is, now kind of her curse, so to speak, because Alice inherits the power of Kristen, which I didn't actually mention. Before Kristen dies in the boiler room scene, she kind of endows her power to Alice, which I wasn't quite sure why she did that. I was like, she probably did it so that Alice could bring other kids into her dream so that they could help her fight Freddy. But I was also like, man, kind of a not very a great move on your part, Kristen. Now she's just going to be falling asleep and inadvertently killing other kids, which is what happens here. Because we have the scene where Sheila's working on her math homework, and there's like this kind of like weird CGI effect where the writing on her page is moving around and stuff, and then Freddy is now the teacher in the front of the classroom, right? And there's an interesting kill. I don't think it was particularly effective. It looked really goofy, but it was definitely inventive. I'll give it that. Where he comes over to her, and to Sheila, that is, and he like grabs her and kind of like kisses her, but he sucks the life out of her, like he's sucking all the oxygen out of her, and she kind of shrinks down, shrivels, like her eyeballs are popping out, her skin is like wrinkling and everything. It was kind of it was an interesting thing, but it did look kind of fake, and it was just so over the top that I couldn't take it seriously. Now I know that a lot of people do like this one, and this is kind of like supposed to be kind of funny and shock value kind of stuff. So I could see a lot of people really enjoying that kill. It didn't look that great, which is not always a bad thing, but I was just like, okie dokie, here we go. And then we can get into another kill where he kills her friend. I don't even remember her name, Debbie, the rocker chick. There's this interesting scene where Alice goes to a movie and she falls asleep in the movie theater, and she kind of gets sucked into the movie screen. There's like this big windstorm that pulls her into it, and it was kind of an interesting thing. It was kind of I didn't hate it where she got pulled in. It was a little goofy and over the top, but that's the style. And she gets pulled into the movie. It's kind of in black and white when you're viewing her in the film, and then when she's viewing the outside, she can see the theater, and she's seeing it in color. And she is pulled into the diner that she works in the movie. Didn't even talk about that, but it was like whatever. She gets pulled into it, and then we get this scene where like Freddy comes in, and Freddy does not kill her here. He is really wanting her to bring her more kids because he needs their souls. And he doesn't actually kill her. He just kind of tells her, bring me more. And then he wakes her up and he disappears. And there's this scene where he gets this pizza, and when he opens the pizza, the meatballs are like little faces of the of like souls of the people he's killed. And he uses his glove and his claw, and he picks one of the meatballs out and he eats it, and it's disgusting. I kind of thought that was disgusting, honestly. And I mean, I'm not grossed out that often by movies, and it was like totally fucking ridiculous, right? This scene is a perfect example of this movie being off the walls fucking nuts, especially if you were to take that scene and compare it to the tone of the first one. We're at a point now where it's like, this could not be more different if it tried. Totally different now. We're not even close to being the same style of film. It is in a totally different direction now, because that is just ridiculous and campy and hilarious and a little gross. I don't know. I didn't really like it because I don't like the whole comedy shit. Like I've reiterated 1,000 times, but it was also kind of like I kind of had a little bit of that cringe, like ew. And then he says, soul food, like, oh, nice quip. Then he wakes her up. And then we have another part where Freddy is stalking Debbie, the rocker chick, and he brings her into a room, and he turns her into a cockroach, where he kills her in this little roach motel. The room that she's in is like he's holding the little, roach trap kind of thing. This was fucking disgusting, all right? I mean, a really weird kill, like a really weird sequence, but I kind of liked it because I'm a fan of body horror and things like that, like The Thing, The Fly by David Cronenberg. Those movies are fucking disgusting, but there's something about body horror that I kind of like, and it's because it's like, or Hellraiser is another good one, I think. That's more of like an erotic horror film, kind of, but it has a lot of body horror elements in it too. And body horror is a real tricky one because it's very esoteric. I mean, there's not a lot of people that are going to be able to handle that kind of shit because it's so gross, and it's so, things happening to your body in a really disgusting way is like, that people can't handle that, and it makes you scream. Body horror definitely makes me scream. I don't like it, but I do like it, you know what I mean? I really, it's a real ballsy sort of horror where you gotta go all the way with it. You can't half-ass that kind of style, or else it's gonna come off, it's not gonna work. It's gonna be really stilted. The Fly is probably my favorite body horror movie. Like I said, that movie is absolutely disgusting. It is hard to watch at certain points, but it's very, very effective. So this wasn't like even on the same level as those kind of movies, but I did appreciate that they did that, because like she's lifting weights in her room, and you just know, when I saw her lifting the weights, they have like the overhead shot of it, and I'm like, okie doke, can't wait for that to fall and crush her fucking face. It doesn't though. It actually surprised me. I didn't guess it right, and I actually liked what happened more. She's lifting the what do you call them? The like the barbell. I don't know. I don't I don't work out, and the pressure on her arms like breaks her arms open at the elbows, and you know, and it's like it's very over the top. It's not even remotely realistic, but I kind of was like, all right, that's kind of cool. I like that. That's pretty gross. And then she has like these disgusting like like I, I don't know, like roach, you know, she turns to a roach, I guess. So like roach arms come out, and she's like freaking out because now her arms are these roach arms, and she's like running down a hallway. I'm like, whoa, this is fucking gross. And then she goes into the room where he turns her into the roach, and like it's like her head like comes off, and like the roach head comes out. It was really gross. So I gotta give props to the movie for that scene because I enjoyed that. It was disgusting and kind of hard to watch, so I appreciated that they at least made me squeam. Kind of liked it. And then we get into this kind of interesting sort of time loop sort of thing where, you know, Debbie and Dan, who are, not Debbie, sorry, Dan, her boyfriend, who wasn't really her boyfriend at the beginning of the movie. He's kind of a jock kind of guy, and I haven't really talked about him. He's not really utilized that much in the beginning of the film. He kind of comes in and flirts with her at the diner and things like that, and then they kind of, you know, hook up at the end of the movie. Oh, I didn't even talk about her her brother Rick. If I forgot about that. There's a sequence where he falls asleep at school and on a toilet, and then it kind of goes into this crazy thing where he's in an elevator, and it's like this like weird graffiti hellish sort of elevator going up and down, and then it opens into a dojo, you know, because he's like the Karate Kid, Rick-san, if you will. And then he goes into this dojo where he gets in a little skirmish and he's killed. That did nothing for me. You know, that was another. I totally forgot to talk about it. That was another one where I was like, whatever, you know. And it was very MTV-ish. But we'll talk about that at the end. This movie has an MTV feel to it. It's very much a product of its time. It's like an MTV horror movie almost. People call it that. It's very apropos to do so. Anyways, getting back to this with her boyfriend Dan. So they get in a car accident, which I guess they're dreaming because they hit this tree and Dan gets like knocked the fuck out, and Dan goes into surgery. And then at this point, and I've said before that sometimes I think I overthink these things a little bit, where I'm like really trying to think, you know, deeply into it, and I don't think that the filmmakers are making it that cerebral. But it had this thing where I'm like, wait a minute, is he dreaming in the surgery? And then you kind of see that he is sometimes, but then like she's doing things in the real world, and it starts to get a little bit muddied. In the first movie, that's done to great effect. In the second movie, that also starts to happen in the little bit. That one's a little bit different, but in the third one, I don't think they really do that much. But it's like this muddiness that I liked in the first one. I think in here it's probably more of just like the plot is a little bit weaker, the pacing and everything is a little bit off. I think that's what it was. So, you know, they're doing surgery and everything like that. And, there's a scene where he like grabs the motorcycle to try to race to her, and the motorcycle becomes this like disgusting, like, I don't even know what you would call it, like like his head becomes like sinewy with flesh and everything like that. That was kind of interesting. It was too hokey for me to enjoy it, but whatever. So basically at this point, Alice goes into the dream to deal with Freddy. Dan gets woken up from his surgery by the doctors, so he starts freaking out because he's like, no, I need to be in there. I need to be asleep so I can help her, but they don't understand. So she's on her own now. And she gets in this whole sequence with him, which is like, again, it didn't really do anything for me. It was kind of hokey. And when he's about to overpower her, basically, she starts singing this nursery rhyme thing. Now, I don't know if I like missed something earlier, like it was they placed it in the beginning of the movie as like a Chekhov's gun sort of thing for you to come back to later. But I was like, where was this nursery rhyme from? In the comments, if if I missed it, please let me know. But I don't remember hearing this, so it's like almost like a, what would you call it? That like Deus Ex Machina sort of thing, where it's like the solution to the problem at the end comes out of nowhere. It kind of is like just given to them. I think that's what happened. I could be wrong, but she says this nursery rhyme, and then gives up and kind of like stuns him a little bit, and she puts up a piece of broken glass, and that him seeing his reflection is what starts this destruction. But yeah, if it is the case where she just kind of recites it, I'm like, that's stupid. I mean, I always hate those sorts of endings, because it's like she could have just done anything. She could have done anything. I mean, really, if we're giving it to her at the end out of nowhere, anything could have happened. I never like those sorts of endings. Stephen King is real guilty of that in his novels. I'm sure if you read him, y'all are aware of that. Love Stephen King, but the guy's got struggles with endings sometimes. I even forgot to mention that they're in this old church, which the set for the church was cool, I have to admit. It had stained glass and everything, and it was decrepit and a little bit off. It wasn't like so over the top goofy that it looked like a cartoonish sort of thing. It was a pretty cool set, I have to say. I like the set for this last scene. And now we get to the ending where Freddy dies. And I'm a little split on it, because I'm like over this shit at this point, right? I'm like, this is so fucking stupid. This is ridiculous. I'm not hating the movie, like I'm not having any sort of enjoyment with this, but it's also like so ridiculous. Like, how many times are you going to kill this guy? How many times are you going to bring him back? How's he going to die now? That's my thoughts. I know I'm only like halfway through the series too, so I got some shit to go. But the way that Freddy dies is awesome. It's awesome. It is the best part of the movie. These souls like push out of his chest, like, kind of like in it's a similar effect to when he pushes his head out of the TV in the third movie, where it's like that kind of rubbery sort of material, that like stretchy latex, or like the first movie, or things like that. And he pushes, or even in the second movie, when he pushes his head out of Jesse's chest, that sort of effect, and you see them like writhing within inside of him, all these souls and everything like that, and they start tearing him apart, and like their arms are shooting out of him. You see like these disgusting little soul hands shoot out of him, and they start tearing him apart, and they like rip his face off. His like jaw gets ripped off, and it's like you see like all of his like the inside of his face and everything. It was fucking disgusting. I mean, it was disgusting. I thought it was a really good effect. Practical effects. Now, all the effects are mostly practical in this movie. There's a couple, real old sort of visual effects, but, I didn't love all the practical effects in this movie. This one was outstanding. Although I don't, this is getting to be too crazy for me in terms of the theme and everything of the movie. This was an amazing practical effect. It was disgusting. It was totally insane. I really, really like this. And one thing, I was watching the special features. The way that they did this was crazy. They had Robert Englund, with like his head sticking out of the wall with this prosthetic sort of chest thing on him for some of the effects where the arms are shooting out and stuff. And then they had a dummy where they ripped the jaw off of it, which was cool. But when they showed the people writhing around in his stomach, they actually built like a 20-foot replica of his chest with this sort of latex material, and they put people inside of the chest and had them writhe around. So it was real people that were writhing around in there. There was like a naked chick or something. Of course, they had to pop that in there for you to see, I just thought that the way they did it was outstanding. You would very rarely see something to that extent these days. I don't think that would ever happen. We'd get some sort of CGI thing. yeah, just that was really, really good. I really, really like that. Awesome. And then we get to our little epilogue where Dan and Alice are a little happy couple. They go to a little fountain, and for a very split second, Alice looks down and she sees Freddy's reflection in the water. And for a split second, I was like, what's he going to do? Come out and kill her? You know? Like, oh, he didn't kill him this time? But nothing happens. They just kind of walk away. I think Dan's like, oh, what'd you wish for? But she won't tell him. And then they just kind of walk away and the movie ends. And that's it. So yeah, so I didn't really like this movie that much. It was just way too campy. Well, not campy, because campy I like. I like campy. It was just too comedic and ridiculous. I don't think it was well paced. I think that the fact that they had Kristen killed like a decent chunk into the movie just killed the pacing for me. Someone that I've started to come to really like dies. Now we have to start to build a relationship, so to speak, with this new Alice character. And it's like, it's just a very off pacing. And as a result, the movie actually did feel quite a bit long to me. I know it was only 90 minutes, something like that, but it really felt like a bit of a slog at times. I just don't like this comedy bullshit. Like I said, this gets dubbed the MTV one because it just has that feel to it. It feels super dated and 80s. It's got like the MTV references in there when the kid's watching TV. Some of the kills just weren't very good to me. They were cheap looking. They just felt tired. There wasn't a ton of visceral gore in this, which I think if they, like I said, I don't always need that, but I think that probably would have saved this a little bit if they went really balls to the walls. It would at least make it a little more entertaining. But some of the kills were great. The cockroach one was fucking disgusting and awesome. I loved it. And the ending with him being torn apart was amazing. That was one of the coolest special effects I think I've ever seen. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. So there was at least a few redeeming things, but I wasn't thrilled about this movie, man. I liked it definitely the least of the ones I've seen so far. Well, that's not true because the fifth movie's coming next, and I like that one even less. A lot less. I thought that was really bad. Spoiler for the next episode. We'll get to that one, but yeah, this one it didn't do it for me. Will I watch it again? I probably will. These movies are going to become a staple for the Halloween season for me. This isn't one I'm ever going to watch randomly throughout the year. The first first three actually, I think I could watch randomly when the mood strikes, and I would enjoy it. But this one I'm not going to watch. Really, I didn't really like it that much. But if I'm doing the Halloween thing, like probably next year, I'll watch all of them. Definitely gonna watch it. It's got a couple cool moments, but I don't know, guys. What do you think? Do you guys like this one? I know that this was like the highest grossing one up to that point. It did really, really well, which of course means they're gonna make another one, obviously. I know people like it for sure. People don't mind that comedy sort of shit. So yeah, let me know if you like this one. You totally can disagree with me. I'm sure there's plenty of people that will, and that's fine. We all have different things that we like in movies. For me, this didn't satisfy that, but that's okay. And I am glad I watched it. I couldn't not have seen it. So there's that. But I don't like that Freddy's becoming the person we're rooting for. I know this is old news. Everybody knows this, but like I said, I am seeing it for the first time. If I didn't mention that at the beginning, I've never seen these before, which is nuts, but that is the case. Yeah, the guy that directed this, his name is Rennie Harlin. He's a Finnish film director. If you watch the special features where they interview him about this, you could tell he was like, oh man, I really want to make this the way I want it, when he saw the first movie, and he just made what he wanted. Like, he wanted to make this like crazy rock star, Freddy, goofy, over the top sort of movie, so he just kind of did it. You get that vibe listening to his interviews. Like, I think he actually mentioned something like, oh, well, everyone roots for Freddy now, so let's just go with it. I think that's what his thoughts were, basically. He actually directed Die Hard 2 and Deep Blue Sea. Those are two movies I've seen. I don't know any of the other ones he's done. So, that was this. I normally talk about the music when it comes at the end. The music was done by a composer named Craig Safan, who I know nothing about. I have never ever heard of him. Just looking at his page, he's done the music for Major Payne, which is a funny little cult film. And I guess he did music for Cheers. Didn't know that. I'm actually looking through his filmography real quick because I want to see if he's done anything I know. Looks like not a ton, you know. The music wasn't outstanding in this one. I thought the music in the last one was really good. Angelo Badalamenti, like I said, is one of my favorite composers ever. So I think he did an outstanding job with that. This one just was kind of, it wasn't bad. It wasn't like a distractingly bad film score or anything. It was just very paint by numbers. It was very routine. It did what it needed to do. Nothing jumped out. They did add a little more orchestral sensibility into it, a little more 80s, style to keep it in theme with the film. But we did hear Freddie's themes once in a while. I always like to hear that. They're so simple and effective. So that's the music. Nothing much to say about it. Just no comments that really. It's funny. I said I was going to make this into a two-parter because I said I had less to say about this than the last one. Yet this is like my longest podcast episode ever. So who knew? That might actually be because this is such a drastic shift in tone, and this is I would say, a definitive point in the series where it starts to shift. So maybe that's why I talk a little longer, because I had a lot of thoughts on that. Next is part 5, The Dream Child, and then after that is part 6, Freddy's Dead. I have seen The Dream Child, like I said, and I thought it was pretty bad. Freddy's Dead, I haven't seen yet. I gotta watch that one. And then New Nightmare, of course. I know I'm probably gonna like New Nightmare. So I hesitate to say I'll do a two-parter for the next episode because it seems I can't do that with how much I like to talk. So there's that. I hope you enjoyed this. My thoughts were a little all over the place on this one, but it's a weird movie. It really is. Not my favorite at all. It did have some cool scenes though. Next time, like I said, obviously we're gonna do the 5th one. And yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it. Let me know what horror movies you've been watching if you're one of those people that gets real into it in this season. I always love to hear from you guys. Like the video if you would, if you liked it, of course. That does help with things being seen. I think comments do too. I don't really care about that so much. I mostly, I've said I always do this to, for me, because it's a very enjoyable experience for myself. And also, I like when people can get some enjoyment out of these things and enjoy my long, rambling sort of style. But I also like to hear from you guys. That's the main reason I do YouTube in general. I just like to talk to you folks about all our different hobbies. It's a lot of fun. And especially now that we're all like getting insanely stir crazy with everything that's going on and there's not a lot of happiness going around. These are great things to kind of just keep our spirits up. And who doesn't love horror movies, right? All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Stay scared and have a great day.